Hi, everybody. I have brought a special surprise today to you, and that is an amazing lady who I have a whole lot of respect for, and her name is Sherryn Bowers. Hi, Sherryn.
Hello, thank you for having me here, Hadassa, and welcome to everyone. It's great to have you with us today.
I came across Sherryn, luckily enough, through TCI, the Coaching Institute, which I have shared with you before. She was my mentor. Um, and ever since meeting her as a mentor, she's actually become my real mentor. And she has so much knowledge and so much wonderful language. And she's done so many exciting things in her life, which she might share a little with you today, that I thought this would be absolute gold for you guys to be able to also experience the wonderful language that Sherryn commands around personal development, around so many other things. So rather than me even try to introduce Sherryn, because there's so much language that I will not capture, I'm going to let Sherryn tell you a little bit about herself and how she wowed me herself.
Hadassa, what a wonderful warm welcome. Thank you very much for having me here. I guess when Hadassa asked me to come and speak to you today, I'll put on the table just so we all know it. I'm currently single and childless. Um, the the fruits of my life, if you like, are the places I've been, the relationships that I've built, the conversations I have had with an extraordinary individuals and groups of people across the globe. And whilst one day I very much hope to be in your position, I hope to be married and have my own family. Right now, we're going to talk more about how I've grown into who I am today, the people that I've met, the people that I've served, and what's enabled me to take those steps, because I think there's a lot of similarities that just as you're going into a new phase of your life, every time I've moved countries, every time I've changed jobs, every time I've changed directions, I've needed to step into and claim something deeper, something richer, something broader within myself. And I'm sure you'll relate. It's not always easy. So in a nutshell, I've lived in Europe, Asia, and Africa for 10 years. I was originally from New Zealand and was brought up in New Zealand and Australia. Based in Australia now. It's currently home for now. But my work experience includes everything from working with taking kids into prisons when I was at university. I ran a halfway house for women released from prison when I was 21 years of age. Terrifying. Don't try and do that while you're a university student. You don't have the life experience for it, whatever you think you might do. But got through it. Did a lot of work with people with disabilities, did a lot of work in human resources in New Zealand. Took me into Europe where I got to integrate offices through Germany, set up a company in Spain, set up an office in Italy, got offered an international role and decided I was going to leave all that at 31, I think I was, um, and went and did youth work. So ran residential retreats for high school students, really nurturing body, mind, spirit, very holistic approach to young people's growth and development. On the back of that, I came home to actually get engaged, back to New Zealand on a holiday. Relationship didn't work out. I called that quits, but it's one of those moments in life when you know that God's got a hand in your life, even though you don't see it coming. The only reason I would have gone back to New Zealand at that time was to get engaged. I had a month's worth of holidays. I would have travelled around Europe, believe me. But I went home, and the blessing was that my grandmother, the woman who was closest to me in my entire life, was diagnosed with brain cancer with a short time to live. And I had the beauty, the honour, the privilege of being with her on that journey in her last couple of months, because I came home and I stayed home with her. At the end of that time, I took another left field turn. I decided I needed to do something different, so retrained, got my CELTA qualification to teach English as a second language. Never wanted to teach, never wanted to go to Asia. So of course I went to Thailand and I taught English for 2 years. Two of the best years of my life. These young people opened up a part of my heart I didn't even know existed until I worked with them. It was an extraordinary 2 years of travel opportunities, but also internal connection to heart. And these boys are still, now they're 29 and 30, they're on Facebook. They still send me messages telling me that they love me, that they miss me, and they're getting married, they're having kids, and I can't wait to go back to Thailand and reconnect with them all once more, as I've done randomly over the years. It was. As you'd all know, young people just open up something in us that perhaps we don't even know exists until it occurs. From there, I got an opportunity to be able to be a volunteer teacher in Tanzania for a year, which was an extraordinary opportunity, and I'd always wanted to volunteer in Africa. Little did I know I'd be teaching or I'd be able to disappear there for 12 months. On the back of that, I went to Vietnam and Cambodia, again, stepping back into HR, but for a travel company, and really the challenge of bringing two very distinctly different cultures, in fact, warring cultures in the past, Cambodia and Vietnam together in one united front, integrated with a whole new set of standards at an international level, had its challenges, but the richest of rewards. I got an email, 2 emails this week, in fact, one from one of my first leaders I hired in Vietnam, an extraordinary young man with a beautiful heart, very intelligent mind, and a real desire to make a difference in the world, acknowledging that by me giving him the opportunity, by me believing in him, by me helping him see what was possible, that he's gone on and he did what we hired him to do. He went out and created his own business. He's studied in the States and done his MBA, and he's now taking himself to the next level. Just got married, taking his family to the next level. And on the other hand, I had one from one of my Khmer leaders who over the last 10 years has now, as of this month, been promoted to be the general manager of this company in Cambodia, the first time a local person's ever held such a role in that company. And again, thanking me for the belief I had him and the opportunity I gave him. I don't mean to say that to say, look at me, I'm so good. I say that because, like with your children, the seeds that we plant, the belief that we have in people, the opportunity to see the best of them and create an environment where we bring that to the fore, just like you have an opportunity with your family, that's what life's all about. Whether it's with your children, with your friends, in your work environment, for me, with my travels and all the people that I work with one-on-one coaching now or in larger organizations. That is the crux of what I believe I'm here to do.
Now you know why I chose her as my mentor.
Because I can talk a lot.
No, you talk beautifully, but also the fact that you champion people in such a beautiful and heartfelt way. I truly know I'm going to benefit from this lady in more than one way.
So that's me in a nutshell.
It's a wonderful
It's where
nutshell.
I am now.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you. Well, where you are now, interestingly enough, you're leaving this week.
Well, I am. I'm here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
Literally, I'm off to the UK tomorrow. You're right.
Yes, and you're doing a course that sounds amazing. And I think that a lot of us, women in general, are assuming more and more leadership roles, not just leader, we're not talking in the corporate world, we're talking leadership with our own families. You're all leaders.
Yes.
Every single one of you, whether you like it or not, ladies, if you have a family, you end up being a leader. You may be doing that together with your partners, that's fine, but you are a leader. You're leader of the future generation. So you could take it that way, you could take it because you'd like to be a leader in a different way. But Sherryn's actually going to tell us a little bit about the course she's going to do.
Delighted to, delighted. I am so excited. And you can tell I get very passionate very easily. I'm so excited about the program I'm bringing back from the UK. It's created by Dr. Joanna Martin, an organisation of which she's the founder, called One of Many. I got first introduced to Joanna about 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, since we're in 2017 now, when she was my business mentor. And I remember the first session I ever had with her, group room, I'm in a hot seat. She's saying, Sherryn, what do you love to do? What are your skills? What's your background? And I'm telling her all my experience, and it's all very corporate and business-like. And then she goes, what's going to light you up? And I talked about my passion for developing world and making a difference in that space. And all of a sudden she says, so what are you doing in August? And I went, I don't know. What am I doing in August? You're my mentor. Tell me. She goes, you're going to go to Africa. You're going to do a leadership program with the Hunger Project. And you're going to spend 2 weeks in Malawi. And you've got 10 weeks to raise $10,000 for the Hunger Project. You're talking to someone who'd never raised a raffle ticket in her life. I was like, okay, I'm in. Back to Africa I come. And so that was my introduction to Joanna, my introduction to the Hunger Project, a project that just lights me up with the good work that they're doing in the world. And I sow that seed because all of that is the basis of where Joanna comes from and so much of where I come from in the project and the program that we're rolling out at the moment. Because this program is truly around empowering women. It's around, I reckon some of you, if you don't resonate, you're going to know women that do. In today's society, we are so busy wearing our superwoman cape. We're so busy doing all things for all people, push, 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 and we're terrified if you scratch the surface, you're going to be found out as not quite good enough underneath. No, people resonating?
Absolutely.
I know for myself, for many years, I didn't know what this was called. I didn't have a label or a name for it, but I put such pressure on myself to perform at such a high standard, and it turned out to be not sustainable. In my instance, it was in the corporate environment, and I totally burnt out. Literally, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I ended up on a beach in Thailand, empty. Nothing left. I hadn't even realized how empty I was until I got to that point, and I walked away and suddenly went to connect with myself, and there was an empty husk, a shell. And this program is designed because in 2009, the Dalai Lama said, the Western woman will change the world. Here's the thought behind it, that we have so many resources, we have so many opportunities as women to influence our lives, our communities, our environments, that as we do so, we will influence where the resources, the products, the services of the future come from and are used and consumed. In doing that, it will overflow into the developing world as well. Joanna very correctly identified that to really create this shift, we're not in a position to take on any more responsibility because we're already heading towards burnout. So she wanted to find a way so that we had the time and the energy and the space in ourselves and our lives to do what we're really passionate about, to do what we're truly aligned to do, to make the difference that lights us up, to stop living the life of what we think we should be doing and rather live the life that we're here to live, to make the difference that's uniquely ours, be it in our family, be it in our workplace, be it in our community, locally, nationally, or globally. And so this is where it overlaps with my deeper passion, because I see this program as an opportunity to help women reconnect with the energy, the wisdom, the knowledge, the power that lives deep within each and every one of us, that enables us to live true to ourselves, to follow our hearts, to say yes to ourselves, to teach our daughters that they can be anything they want to be and do it in a sustainable way. And to do that, as we rise up, as we take a stand for what's possible in our lives, I will be able to create through my own business the resources, the time, the energy, and ultimately opportunities for those that want to come on the journey with me to put resources into the developing world, to put it into the projects that I know from personal experience, having been with them on the ground in the developing world, the difference they make. Because when you empower a woman in the developing world, her whole community changes. She doesn't do it for herself. She does it for her family, for her community, for her children's children. It's a generational focus. A focus I know that each and every one of you listening has already, because you look at your children and you want the very best for them. That's what these women want too. They just need a helping hand with some of the resources to get started. And what I see, and it's an incredible blend. The Hunger Project has a slogan on one of their brochures I love. It says, "Together we can be extraordinary. We can end world hunger." And their mission is to end world hunger by 2030. When I read that statement, I do on a daily basis, I say, together we can be extraordinary. We can end world hunger of the body and of the soul. Because I see there's a match. I see that in my experience, Western women have such immense resources at their fingertips available. Whether or not they see it, they're there. But often they've lost touch with the internal resourcefulness that enables us to make of ourselves what we could be in the world. And I see, having worked on the other side in the developing world, that these women lack the physical resources, the money and the training, and even for many of them, the education, the support. But boy, they've got the internal resourcefulness. They've got the soul, they've got the spirit, the drive, the commitment, the vision. And when we can bring those things together, when we can feed the soul of Western women to get them reconnected at that deepest level of their true worth and what's possible for them, and we can give the external resources to the women in the developing world so they can truly uplift themselves, their families, their communities for generations to come. Together we are all one, and together we as women will change the shape of this world.
I that really resonates. It's beautiful. Actually, as you were speaking, I recalled hearing you recently speak about something that might be of benefit for all women to hear, was about how, and it resonated with me because particularly when I was a young mum, I don't know about you guys, but I certainly went through a lot of highs and lows with my hormones. I really did. So whether it was being pregnant, whether it was having the baby, whether it was my monthly, there were times that I had a lot of energy and things were easier or easy depending on what was going on in my life. And then there were times that I'd just fall flat, and I used to feel a lot of guilt around that. So that's why, as you were speaking, I'm going, oh my goodness, had I had that knowledge and that understanding deep within me, that I'm going to let you talk, but A, I was normal, and B, it was natural, and it was okay, which you're going to put in much nicer terms, that would have really, really been a great help and an anchor for me. Yeah. And I wouldn't have had to torture myself so often. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Delighted to. We live in a culture that, if we go back 150, 200 years, the Industrial Revolution happened. What's the core of that? Productivity started to come in. We came off the land into the factories, and the more productive you were, the more that you created, the more worthy you were from the point of view of you earned more. And everything started to be measured, not by the seasons, not by nature, but by dollars, by hours, by product. And it became very masculine in the paradigm in which business was created, and so much of what society, particularly Western society, is that we live in. Women, I'll let you in on a secret here. We're not men. We're not machines. We're not built to be consistent day in, day out. And we're not men. And cut us, we bleed the same. But we are physically built different. I know, no real secret, right? So why is it that we pretend or forget and end up attempting to live life wearing men's trousers? It doesn't work. Our bodies are designed differently. We're more like Mother Nature. We go through the seasons. You think Mother Nature, she has spring, summer, autumn, winter. You plant your seeds in spring. You let them germinate in summer. You bear the fruit and collect the harvest in autumn, and you allow the ground to rejuvenate in winter. We operate in the same way. Now, here's the thing. A guy can go to work and turn up every day. Or if you're not working at home, your husband can be very stable in how he shows up in life. We, as you know, are not quite that stable. And even more so when you're a mother and you've got all these extra hormones running through your body, you will respond differently. So I really encourage you to listen to your body, to tune into your body, to feel into the different seasons. And there might be the different seasons, as in the different flow throughout your month. There might be the different flow throughout your trimesters. It might be the different flow throughout your day. And that's okay. Just to acknowledge that in the masculine way, we have to be consistent and we have to push through at all costs. And let's be honest, there are going to be times where you're going to need to dig deep. There are going to be times where you're going to have to push through something. You're not going to feel like doing it, but your baby needs you, your partner needs you, someone needs you, and it's a priority to you, and you're going to put them first. But I'm going to encourage you to make sure that's not how you operate day in, day out. That you take time for you, that the more that you tune into yourself, to your natural rhythm, then you're going to find times when you just naturally need to take some downtime. You need to go and have that extra nap in the afternoon. You need to get an extra early night, even though there's washing to be done and other plans to be made. Honor yourself. Know you deserve that. Because on the flip side of that, there are going to be days and times in the day or the week or the month where you're going to have supersonic energy. You're going to get more done before lunch than most people get done in a week. And that's cool. But it's not consistent. So don't set that as your standard and expect that to happen each and every day. Just like you don't expect the fruit to be harvested in spring, don't expect your on to be the only button that you have. Know that you've got a dial. And as you allow that dial to flow through in your life, you will allow yourself the permission to give of your best. Because first and foremost, you're honoring what you have available to you. So you truly can show up to your very best at all times. Does that help?
That is amazing. That's beautiful. And something you said that I think will also be of benefit something again, I had to learn it. So I'm assuming that mothers in general, and I've heard this from family, from friends, from girls, is the whole issue around feeling selfish when you want to do something for yourself. Okay, you want to go shopping, you want to buy yourself a dress, or oh, but there's not enough money. The children need something. School's coming. These holidays would have been a bit of a test for some of you at some of the times. Going overseas, how can I go? And what about the family? What about the money? What about so many things? That the sense of selfishness if we do something or take time, take money, take anything. That's all physical and energy and stuff like that. But when we take for ourselves, that sense that we're being selfish.
Yes. As I said earlier, I'm not a mother, but in this instance, I relate because that was the pattern that my mother played out. She put her family first in everything. I love my mother dearly. I am immensely grateful for all that she gave up for us as her family. But as a grown woman, I also hurt for her. I see the lost opportunities, the dreams she didn't follow. Now, my mother wanted to be a rock star. I'm not saying she should have left her family and gone and played in a band. That's not necessarily the level of selfishness that I wanted her to have. I liked having my mum at home with me. But what I am saying is that when you put yourself first, when you give yourself permission to acknowledge your own needs, to recognize what makes you tick, what makes you happy, what lights you up, what fills your soul. Do you need time out? Do you need moments that replenish you? We all do. Just because you've become a partner or a mother doesn't change that. The opportunities, the windows may get a little smaller, the pressures may get a little more, but it doesn't stop you from actually honoring yourself first. Because here's what happens when you've got so many demands on you and you don't honor yourself first, when you don't put yourself first, you give and you give and you give. It's great until you start to burn out. You don't need to be corporate to be this. You burn out and you start to become what we call the martyr. I'm sorry, ladies, it's a common fact, particularly in motherhood, that the mothers that just give and give and give with no concern for giving to themselves end up giving from a depleted state. It's not sustainable. More than that, the people on the receiving end of what's being given feel it. There's not a joy in the giving. There's not a joy for you giving it, and there's not a joy for the person receiving it anymore. Whereas when you take that time, be it those extra couple of minutes to look after yourself. Prime example, one of my mentors was actually talking about this recently, and she's a mum with a new little one, and she was saying how she and her husband take turns to get up to feed the child at night. Needless to say, breastfeeding's long gone now, and husband can do this, but they take turns to get up. Now, when the baby cries in the middle of the night, her husband gets up, and the first thing he does is he goes to the toilet, he gets a glass of water, and then he goes and looks after the child. She said, what do I do? I don't even think about my needs. It never crosses my mind. It never crosses that I might need to do something. And what happens? I go and get the baby and I'm suddenly feeding him. And 15 minutes in, I realize I'm desperate for a drink. Worse yet, my knees are crossed and I'm dying for a pee. Excuse the bluntness, but it's there. Why? Because she's just gone and naturally put her son first and herself second. Whereas her husband has a better sense of looking after himself. There are too many times when we put others first without filling ourselves up first. It's a beautiful, beautiful trait, and every woman and every man, we have feminine and masculine energy, and the mother archetype, the mother energy, is that energy of nurturing and nourishing and encouraging and putting someone else first. It is beautiful to be commended and to be kept, ladies, but not at self-sacrificing of yourself. Be it finding time with your partner, where even, and this is like, I think another, as I see it, factor that comes through, that I see a lot of my friends who do have children fall into martyr, not because their partner's not there to help. And I'm going to say this from my perspective now, what I see from the outside looking in, at least, that the husband's there to help, but he doesn't do it the wife's way. She's got a certain way of feeding the child. She's got a certain way of bathing the child. She's got a certain time she wants the child to go to bed, etc., etc. It's a routine and it works. I get that. But it's almost like if it's not done perfectly that way, then it shouldn't be done at all. If he can't do it.
I'm totally guilty of everything you're saying. Totally. It took a long time to do that.
Well, here's the downside of it though. You might have a child that goes to bed a little later, that perhaps has their knickers on inside out, and perhaps has even forgotten to clean their teeth. And look, if that happened every night, I'm going to say that's probably not great upbringing. But if it happens once a week, and if that one night a week you get half an hour or an hour or 2 hours where you can go and sit in a bath or visit a girlfriend or read a book or go for a walk or do whatever you need just for you, is it really worth not giving yourself that because it's not perfect when he does it? What's more important to you? This is what I mean, that life changes, pressures change. There are certain things that your husband can't do, breastfeeding being one of them. I get that. But there are other things he can do. Are you willing to give him the opportunity to step into that space? Are you willing to accept with good grace his best intentions, his best abilities? Are you willing to teach him how to do it the way you'd like it, or find a compromise in the middle? What is it that's essential for the child's well-being? And what is it that really it comes down to because that's how you like it to be? And at what cost?
And if I might just add that it's also really, really great to let that go, our expectations and our standards, for the husband's sake, because he gets to give, to feel good that he's given to his wife, not to be criticized for what he's given,
to be appreciated for
it. And it creates a further desire to give and a continued desire to give and to share and to feel so important as part of the family. That, and I've made this mistake, so it resonates greatly with me. Thank God I had the sort of man that didn't give up in the face of his wife's criticism, and he's still willing to give. But I've seen other men say, "Well, can't get it right, so guess what? I'm not going to give. I'm just not going to offer because I'll just get my head bitten off. I can't do it her way." And there's nothing. I mean, if that's the way you want to play it, that's okay. But then you both sort of tend to lose.
You both lose out, and your children lose out. Here's a beautiful opportunity for father-child time, and that's also taken away. There's just so many losses when there could be so many gains.
I think that's really gold. Thank you for that. That's really awesome. Can I bring up another issue that seems to come through? It did in my days, and I think I've seen it coming up again in these days, is the issue of, well, it goes together, the issue of worrying about judgment from every decision we make as mothers, whether it's should we breastfeed or should we give immunization or should we educate them this way, or I yelled, everyone's looking at me, oh no, I'm a bad mum. People's perception, and it ties into the confidence that we seem to lose or didn't have and want and do want as women, as mothers, as friends, as partners. So whether you're a mother or not, I think this would resonate with you, confidence and how to handle judgment.
I think it's a really valid question. And I think when life undergoes such a dramatic change in any area, and I think having a child, I can only imagine, must be one of the biggest changes that we go through, both as an individual, as the woman, but also as a family unit. It can, if we're not careful, undermine our confidence, especially if it's your first child and you don't know what you're doing. I know my mother would regularly tell me more as an adult than ever when I was a child, but she goes, I didn't know what I was doing.
There's no handbook.
There isn't. There's things you can read, but we all know with the internet these days, there is such a plethora of information. And where do you start? And even if you start, you look at diet. I don't read stuff about having babies for obvious reasons right now, ladies, but you look at, when I say diet, as in health, and you'll find that this you eat this food and it will prevent cancer, but you eat the same food and suddenly it's going to give you, it's going to cause some other thing. There's always different extremes of expression and the whole spectrum in between. And I think this is where it comes down to a couple of things. One, truly trusting yourself, truly getting into what I call your heart space, a space where you listen to your deeper truth, your intuition, your knowing within. to give you guidance. That, you know, I think we're more fortunate in today's society than when my mother was a young mum and had me. I'll give you an example. I had, it turned out when I was 30, I was diagnosed with something long, so long I can't even, had so many letters, I can't remember how to pronounce it, but some label that basically meant when I was in mum's womb, I was formed in the wrong way, and it had an impact on my knees and my hips and therefore how I walked as a child. And as I started to walk, my mother had this innate sense there was something not quite right. I was her first child. She didn't have anything to compare it against beyond all the children around her, but she just had this sense there's something not right. As it turned out, I walked very pigeon-toed, and she took me to the doctor, and I think they even sent me to a specialist, and they all said, no, she's just a child, she'll grow out, it will be fine. Now, I've had problems in that area of my life my entire life. I've struggled to do certain sports. I'm active, I'm a walker, it's all good. But it wasn't until I was 30 and I was actually in a lot of pain. I couldn't walk up a flight of stairs, in fact, without being in a lot of pain. I went to see someone who finally put a diagnosis on it. And when I said, and I didn't know that mum had this concern as a child. I was such a small child, it didn't pass my radar. I just remember as a child walking down the street, my father, in my mind, humiliating me, going, strain your feet, because I had pigeon toe. Yes, Dad. But I tell you what, thank God for my father, because the doctors did nothing and my feet are relatively straight. But the specialist I saw when I was 30 said it was so severe I should have been in leg braces as a child to have corrected what had gone wrong, and that my body would be very, very different now had I got the appropriate treatment. Now, I share that not to make it about my story, but to say, even back then, my mother had an innate knowing. She had a gut feeling. But she was brought up in a time where doctors were sacrosanct. The word's not coming. What they said was law. You didn't question. They had the authority, and what they said, it stopped there. So she didn't take it any further, and she wondered and she queried. But when I rang her and said, I've just been told this, she goes, I knew there was something wrong. Now, I'm not saying you're always going to get intuition that things are wrong. There's going to be things that are right. You're going to do something, and it's just innately people around you, possibly your own mothers. I see this with my mother and my sister. They have different perspectives. And again, I come back to my mentor, and only because she's shared a little bit of what she's going through with her little boy. And she was saying the same thing, that there are times when she does her reading, she is well informed so that she's making an informed decision. But after that decision is made, all she can do is make it, go by it, get some feedback. And I don't mean what does my next door neighbor, my sister, my mother, or my friend think, but more importantly, how's my child reacting? How am I responding? What is the results I'm getting of the decisions I'm making? And as one of her senior older sort of elders in the community had told her, there are going to be things that you're doing to the very best of your ability today, that when your son grows up and becomes a father, he's going to look back and go, Mom, I can't believe you did that. Times change, knowledge changes, what we're aware of progresses as society grows. You've got to be, I think, the key, become informed and learn to trust yourself. Know this is your body. Know this is your child. Know this is your family. Know what's important to you. What are your values? What is it that is really important? What are the standards you want for your family? And how do all those different components measure up? There's a lovely piece of advice. I don't remember who says it, but something like, it might be Eleanor Roosevelt, something along the lines of, everybody else's opinion of me is none of my business.
I love that.
I do. And I think it overlaps with, you wouldn't go to your mechanic to get advice about your teeth. You'd go to a dentist. So there are going to be people whose opinions and whose advice is going to be worth asking for. There's going to be people that you don't need to know it all yourself. You know, your baby has croup, whatever croup is, I don't actually know, but I've heard babies get croup. Your baby has croup and you don't know what to do with it. You don't just sit there saying, I don't know what to do with it. You get online, you have a look, there's community groups available, there's Facebook groups available, you ring your friend who's, her baby's, 6 months ahead of yours, you ring your mum, your sister, whoever, and you get help. I think what's important is, if someone's giving you unsolicited advice, they mean well, and take it in that way from the point of view of that their intention is sound. My mother sometimes gives input to my sister, and she means well. Perhaps it's not always called for, perhaps it's not always delivered as my sister would like it. But I think when you come from a space of being able to recognize that person, if there's someone close to you in your life, and you can respect that they love you, and then you can have the strength to be able to say thank you very much, and I'm choosing to do it my way. You got to learn to back yourself. And if it's someone who's not close to you, someone on a far-reaching outer circle, a complete stranger in the street, sometimes bowls on up and they've got something to say to you. They do, whether or not they mean well's beside the point. You can simply say, thanks very much. Don't need your perspective. Doing fine as I am. In other words, you don't have to take it all on. Take what's going to be helpful, and even from the people you love and respect, still take it, assess it, see if it fits for you, feel into it, feel your truth, and then apply it. And know that no matter how much good advice you get, how much you take it on board, how knowledgeable you are, and how diligent you are, you're still going to make mistakes. You're still going to get it wrong. It's called life. That's how you grow, that's how you learn, and that's how you're going to be an even better mum, a better wife, a better human being of the future. Trust yourself, give yourself the space to grow.
That's beautiful and so very true. And you say give yourself the space to grow. Sometimes we have issues that we see in ourselves, right? If it's a habit that you don't like, and the habits that we don't like generally, even when we're conscious of it and we try to tame it or control it, it is in times of stress. So it's in times when you haven't slept enough because the baby's been waking you every 2 hours. It's in times when the house is a mess and you've got guests in an hour. In those moments of stress, when those habits that you thought you had a handle on, possibly,
explode,
they come out. So I suppose I'm asking, it's a question that's huge, is how do we go about changing those habits? Because habits they're something that we learned along the way, and that we've adapted as what we call our personality. And it can become a part of your personality. As I think a lot of you understand by now from stuff that I've said, and probably you've discovered on your own, that we actually can change these things when we're ready, when we want to, when they no longer serve us. But how do we go about a habit that keeps surfacing and surfacing and surfacing? Whatever that is for you, whether it's snapping at your partner and your children, whether it's yelling because you've lost control of the situation and it's just too much, whatever it is, how do we go about and change it?
Fabulous question. And a couple of different things come to mind as I hear that. First, from the feminine power leadership training that I do, we have 15 soft power principles. And number one, the most important, before all else, replenish your energy. If you find you're snapping at your husband, if you find that you're yelling at your kids, if you find that you're just acting in a way that you wouldn't like to, more often than not, it's because your energy is depleted. And so taking those moments, taking that time out, I get that you might be having disrupted sleep, and it might not be possible to just go and sleep for 4 hours in the afternoon, which is what your body desperately needs. But it is about taking that moment and recognizing that is the case. Step out of autopilot and step back into conscious choice. And it could be going, well, I can't go to sleep for 4 hours right now. But depending on how extreme your exhaustion is, maybe you need to pick up your phone, dial a friend, as they do on Mastermind, and say, Mum, sister, auntie down the road, next door neighbor who's becoming like a quasi-grandparent, I need half an hour, I need 10 minutes, I just even need 5 minutes to myself. Can you come and watch my child, depending on how old your child is? Maybe it's taking a bath. Maybe it's instead of having that conversation that you know needs to be had and you know it's important, but in the energy or the lack of energy you have right now, now's not a good time for it. And you acknowledge that to your partner. And you say, this is really important. I want to be present to this conversation and I need a good night's sleep. Can we talk about this tomorrow? Maybe it's, I've heard stories of my great grandmother was one of 11 children. Or was it 13? I can't remember. It was a lot.
Many.
It was a household, and it was a very small house. And her mother, a very devout Catholic woman, used to sit in the middle of the kitchen with all the children running around screaming, doing their thing. And she would pull her apron up over her head. And for 5 minutes, she would sit and talk to God. Or she would just sit and listen to God. But the children know when mum's got the apron over her head, she's with God, and we don't interrupt her for anything. And she just created that tiny bit of space. It was a breathing moment. Because here's the thing, we've got the event that happens in life, and then we've got our response to it. And all we do when we're on autopilot, the response becomes a reaction. It's just that natural ingrained habit, as we've talked about. But your habit started from an original action. Your action started from an original thought. When you can work out what's going on and unpick that, when you can work out what's your trigger, when you can work out who is it you really want to be, who is your better version that you want to take a stand for, what do I need to do right now to create that little bit of space, to create that little bit of awareness, to create that little bit of choice so you can turn up differently. It won't happen immediately. It'll start to happen. And you might find that you're screaming for 5 minutes and suddenly the penny goes, hang on, this is a choice. I'm choosing to scream at my kids right now. No, they've not picked up their toys, and no, they've not done all the things I've asked them. And I've asked them 6 bloody times today, and I've had it, and I'm exhausted, and I can't do it anymore. I've reached my limit. But is this the sort of mother I want to be? No? Then you make a different choice. Then yes. What's really important here is not to play the blame or shame game. It's not catching yourself and beating yourself up. It's catching yourself and celebrating that you've caught it. Because in that moment of awareness, you now have a choice that you didn't have when you're on autopilot, and you can do something else. And what you do next may not still get you a great result. But every time you do something else, one, you interrupt the old pattern, which creates space for a new pattern to evolve. And two, each time you do something else, eventually you'll find something that does work for you. And then you can start to repeat that, and you can build that. And that maybe 5 minutes of screaming suddenly becomes 3, suddenly becomes 1. Suddenly you're catching it on the tip of your tongue until suddenly you catch it before it even comes out. There's a story by Wayne Dyer. It's very short, but I'd love to share it because it shows how we change things. Yeah. I believe, if I remember it correctly, he was at a writer's retreat, and they were asked to write the journey of their life, or the story of their life, in 5 chapters. And his story was actually telling one of the other participants' stories that they shared. I'm walking down the street. There's a really big hole. I fall in the hole. It's dark. It's scary. I can't get out. I don't know what I'm doing down here. I don't know how I got here or how to move forward. I scramble. Eventually, I find my way out. I continue to walk down the street. Chapter 2. I walk down the street. I fall down the hole. I scramble, and then I realize, hang on, I've been here before. This place is a bit familiar to me. I know how to get out. I get out. I brush myself off and I walk down the street. Chapter 3. I walk down the street. I see the hole. I know the hole's there, and I fall down anyway. But it's okay because I've been down here before, and I know how to get myself out. I get out. I brush myself off. I walk down the street. Chapter 4. I walk down the street. I see the hole. I go around the hole, and I keep walking. Chapter 5. I go down a different street. That gets me every time, because it says to me, change is possible. I truly believe as a coach that change happens in an instant. When we are ready, change happens in that moment. The evolution of it, the practicalities of it, the living out of it in our life sometimes takes a bit of catching up on. But when our heart is deeply connected to the change we want to make, when we're deeply connected to this type of human being we want to be, the woman we want to be, the mother, the wife, the sister, the friend, the daughter we want to be, when we own that and we choose choices and actions that align with that, it doesn't matter who we've been in the past. It doesn't matter what we've done in the past. Our past doesn't equal our future. When we get out of autopilot, choice and possibility comes before us, and we can truly create the future we want for ourselves and for our loved ones.
Awesome. Amazing. I had that conversation just this morning, and I've had it before, where, and I've been there before, where we blame the other person for having done it to me, or we think
Mm.
that we have to change, whether it's our child, whether it's our partner.
Mhm.
They're doing this thing to me. Why are they driving me crazy? And as Sherryn said, it's an issue of choice. They're not doing it to you. You're choosing to be crazy. Or in the
Angry
case
or
of
frustrated or
frustrated,
mad or sad or hurt or
that's
all
right.
those things.
And we also
Mm.
enable them in continuing to respond. They'll react the same way over and
Yes.
over. It becomes a pattern. They do this, we do that. They do this, we do that. And because we do that, they do this. And
Develops.
until we not, and if we're going to be trying to change them, nothing's going to change. They're only going to bring up more frustration, more
Yes.
angst. Rather, we work upon ourselves and we create that choice within ourselves. And without even meaning for it to happen, they will change.
They
Whoever
have
that
to.
they is, whether it's a friend or a partner. And I had a discussion this morning about a child's behavior that was not very nice, but it was being enabled. And in being able to see that, the person that I was talking to was like, so I can't actually do anything with him and change him. And I helped her to see, because you know what, it's really easy as an outsider for us to be saying this, but I've been through this before. So I'm talking about myself as well. Realize that nobody's doing this to me. Nobody's making me crazy. I'm sure my kids shouldn't hear this, because then I can't say to them, the dishes weren't washed and now I'm upset, because that's my choice to be upset. So that's fantastic what you're saying, because that really highlights how we do have a choice.
We do, and that's where again it comes back to the seeds of the thoughts that we're having around things. Because the event happens, it's what we tell ourselves about the event, the meaning that we give it, the story that we create around it or recreate again and again around it, that actually stimulates the emotions. And those emotions fuel and feed into the behaviors and the actions that we take, which influence our results. So when you think about growing your kids up, rather than think about who they're being right now, I really invite you to consider, who do you want your children to be as adults, as empowered young people? Who do you want them to be as parents? What do you want them to have learnt from you in that space? And then start to model that. Start to be that. Will you get it right all the time? No. Are you perfect? Absolutely not. Perfect in God's eyes, created in God's eyes, guaranteed. But actually in your humanity, no. Divinity, without fail. Humanity, that's what we're here on this earth for, to grow as human beings. So when you can stop, and just like Hadassa so beautifully put, recognize no one's doing anything to you. The world's not happening to you. Life's happening for you. In every circumstance, God and life is conspiring for your every greatest good. I had a client recently that said to me when I shared that belief, and goes, well, how do you know that's true? Ladies, I don't. But I can tell you what, when I believe that the world's a good place, when I believe that every single person, including myself, is doing the very best that we can in any given moment, given all of our beliefs, our values, our life experiences to that moment, and if we could do any better, we would, then I have a sense of compassion. I have a sense of gentleness. I have a sense of openness and love within me that judgment can't touch. And from that place, I can always seek to be the better version of me. I can always seek to improve my actions. I can learn, I can study, I can get coached, I can get mentored, I can involve myself in communities that can teach me better ways of being. But it is ultimately in our hands. Our life is in our hands. Our experience of our life is totally in our hands. Great point. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there something you'd like to share that we haven't addressed today? I mean, we're going to have to invite you back. Definitely. There's so much, and there's so much more. But this has been I've really loved everything that you've said and the way you've said it. So, is there something you'd like to heart with?
I believe that motherhood is an extraordinary gift. It's a blessing that I think when we're open to it as women, each and every one of us has the opportunity to be a mother in some way in the world. That the opportunity to truly to nurture, to nourish, to encourage, to inspire, to draw out the best of the spirit of another is the spirit of motherhood. I also think that those of you who have your very own children, whether it's through physical means, whether it's through adoption or fostering or being a step parent, I think you have an extraordinary responsibility and an extraordinary gift. And I think as you choose to honor yourself, as you choose to lead by example, as you choose to live your dreams and encourage your children to do the same, and you see the world you want them to grow up in, as you take your stand in whatever way you can, in whatever area of influence that you've got to create that world, as you teach your children from your heart how to live, how to love, how to lead themselves, to take responsibility for themselves, as you empower them to be the very best versions of themselves they can be, and to share that love with the world, that love of life and the love of all that they are. And I really mean that, the love of all they are. When you can help your child realize that their absolute worth has got nothing to do with what they do in the world and everything to do with who they are, that unique, beautiful being that the moment it came out of you, the moment you held your baby in your hands and you were swamped with love, not because it did anything, but because it was. Continue to nurture that worth in them and let them go on their path, guide them, shape them, but know they're here to take their own journey and to spread that love into the world. And the only way you can give them that foundation is by giving yourself that same love from the start. Love you, love your children, love this world.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sherryn, so much. That was beyond words. And I can see, if you could see Sherryn's eyes, can you see how much she means this? It's really beautiful from the heart.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank
Ladies,
you, guys.
my
Please
pleasure.
talk to me. Write down your thoughts, your reactions, your questions, things that you'd like to hear more from Sherryn. All the very best.
Much love.
Bye-bye.